Welcome to Backstage with Becca with special guest Melody Rose. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Backstage with Becca. On this episode, this Juilliard graduate made her national tour debut in Finding Neverland as Peter Pan, played Tantomile on the national tour of Cats the Musical, and recently made her Broadway debut in The Outsiders, where she plays Beverly and understudies Marcia and Cherry. Please welcome Melody Rose. How are you? I'm so glad to have you on and talk to you today about
Oh my gosh, me too.
theater and all the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, it's been a wild year for you with The Outsiders.
Definitely.
And like all the fan attention because like this is like the modern day Newsies.
Oh my gosh, for sure.
Yes. So, how are you? How has life been?
It's been a chaotic whirlwind of exhaustion and joy. It is the best way to describe it. It's been nonstop. We get one day off a week.
Yeah.
I haven't really had the time to blink outside of a schedule since February 1st. But yeah, this has been the most rewarding and wonderful experience I've ever had.
Did you ever think that a show like this would be your Broadway debut?
I had no clue. I thought that maybe one day in the future I'd join a show or replace a part, but I've never thought that I'd be able to originate a role and create it into a new musical that would win Best Musical. It's probably the best case scenario. I'm very lucky. I'm very,
Yes.
very lucky.
No, that's like amazing. It's like a pinch me moment.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I want to ask before I get more into like The Outsiders and other projects that you've done, I want to ask when was the moment that you realized that you wanted to be a theater performer?
Oh my gosh, it was very, very young. I started dancing when I was 3, and my sister, who's 4 years older than me, started in dance class before me. And I basically would watch her in recitals, and I really don't remember this, but my dad said I ran up to the stage of my sister's first recital, and I was like 1.5, 2 situation when I first started walking. And then when I did my first recital, I just kind of knew I loved what I did, and I had a really wonderful teacher back home named Cheryl Boyer who really encouraged me. And yeah, then my mom really loved the musical Gypsy. And she had the VHS with Rosalind Russell as Mama Rose and Natalie Wood as Louise. And that was played a lot growing up in my house. Nobody in my family was in the arts. My dad played guitar. It really wasn't anything super
Like
artsy to follow from. But she loved musical theater because her dad, my grandpa, loved it. So I would see Baby June do a split and be like, I want to do that. Or dance around to Gotta Get a Gimmick at 5 years old and think like, oh, this is so fun and glamorous and this is kind of what I want to do. I want to be like a superstar.
yeah.
Yeah, I really don't remember a time where I didn't want to do this, which is very, very lucky for me because a lot of people don't have that experience. But I definitely remember that in my fifth grade graduation, we sung what careers we wanted to have, and my pamphlet says Broadway dancer.
Hey,
We all like sung a line, and yep,
and
it's just been that forever. So I've known I wanted to do this since I was literally born, which sounds cheesy and niche, but it's true.
well, your fifth grade self manifested it.
Mm-hmm. That was my first manifestation, probably.
Yeah. So your manifestations work.
Absolutely. Well, I hope so. I hope so.
And
But yeah.
Gypsy is such a unique, I feel like, musical to like get in, like
I
to
know.
get into as a kid.
Mhm.
Because I feel like with
Yeah.
most kids, it's like a Disney show or like
Right.
maybe.
Right. I remember watching like all of those. I remember watching the Brandy Cinderella and Annie and all of that with Carol Burnett as Miss Hannigan. Like I remember watching all of those growing up, and they all affected me in different ways. But I just remember Gypsy being it was my mom's favorite, so I think it was because I loved that my mom loved it. So I wanted to
Yeah.
share that with her. Um,
It's
But yeah, and the weird part of it all is we have an alleyway for the Jacobs Theater, and it shares it with the Golden and the Majestic. So I'll be sharing a stage door with Gypsy.
oh my gosh.
And another crazy thing, I just shared this with somebody else the other day when I was talking to them for an interview. My stylist for opening night, her name's Bethany Sarek. I love her so much. She's amazing, incredible work with styling. And she is in the industry as well. She's an incredibly talented performer. And she styled me for opening night. I look back at my program from when I saw Gypsy was my first musical I saw with Bernadette Peters as Mama Rose. So that was like I was 7 or 8, I can't remember. And I opened the playbill and it says today the balloon girl who's like in the first scene where Mama Rose is trying to give Baby June the star spot will be played by Bethany Tesaric.
Oh,
So it was like it's
no.
kind of crazy how that all ties in together.
Oh
I was
my
like, there's
God.
no way you were in that. And you were a part of my first Broadway musical experience, and now you're a part of mine. It's
That's
unbelievable.
that's wild.
Yeah.
It's like full circle moments happening
Yeah. It's
all
great.
around.
I'm very, very, very lucky.
Have you gotten to be in a production of Gypsy yet?
Never. Not yet. It's my dream. It's my dream. I want to be Dainty June so bad.
So
So
like
bad.
we're gonna manifest that one right now
We
because
will. We
since
will right now,
your
right here.
manifestations happen.
Truly. Truly.
And Bernadette Peters in your first like Broadway show, come on, what the heck?
Everything. And I remember my mom being like, usually the Mama Roses walk down the aisle and we're close to the aisle where she walks and and then she did. And I was just kind of like, and after she sung Rose's Turn at the end, I experienced my first Broadway standing ovation and it lasted like 2 minutes. But for 8, 7-year-old me, it lasted like 10. And I was like, wow, yep, I want to do that. I would love to do that.
Yes, I
I
mean,
would like the validation of an entire theater to applaud for me.
it's like chills when it happens, I feel like.
It's crazy. It's unreal.
Yes. So I want growing up, how did you become like a well-rounded performer?
Well, I started when I was 3 at my home studio back in Glen Burnie, Maryland, called Edna Lee Dance Studio. And I started taking one class a week, which was like a combination class of ballet, tap, and jazz. And then I started joining more tap classes because I really loved tap as a kid, and I still do. Very much well known that I'm very much a tapper. And my dance teacher currently, well, my main dance teacher my whole life, Ashley Cantona Hardy, we did like a recital switcheroo, which where you like dance for the big girls in a like smaller class, and they'll show you their recital dance just as a show and tell kind of thing. And Ashley saw me and went up to my mom and said, "You're like, I would love to work with your daughter. Can you bring her into my class?" So then I went from taking one class a week to 3 classes a week, and then the following year I took 7. So it was like 2 ballet classes, 2 tap classes, jazz, maybe lyrical and competition. And then when I was 12, I started pointe, and I started competition when I was 7 and 8 years old. And then started doing solos and competing. And I was heavily into the competition world. Like that was my thing. Like I would train so hard to do my best at these random dance competitions that would come around, and then we would go to nationals, and there were titles involved, and then my goal was to be a title holder, and then my goal was to be a national title holder. And then I didn't win the national title that I trained for so long, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to get into a good school. So I worked my butt off to try my best to get into the best school possible. And then my dance teacher was like, you have to audition for Juilliard. And I was like, there is no way. Because one of the most talented friends that I knew from my dance studio, she auditioned and got cut first round, which is ballet. And she was the ballet queen. So I was like, there is absolutely no way. She was cutting down because at Juilliard, the audition process goes ballet class, modern class, you show a solo, they teach you choreography and see how well you pick it up, and then it's an interview. And by the time it started off with like 70 people and it ended up with like 4 people getting interviewed.
Oh my
So it started with a ballet class where it was so intense. I was so anxious the morning. I broke down to my mom and I was like, this is going to be the worst thing for my self-confidence. I really don't want to go. And I say that a lot, even to this day with auditions and stuff. I just psych myself out. It's like imposter syndrome. And my mom's like, just go. Like, we'll have a good day. We have all day to spend in the city after. Like, don't worry about it. Like, you're going to have fun. Just have fun.
Yeah, just
I go in there and I'm like, something like washed over me. And I was like, I don't care about this. And it was like kind of like the releasing, letting it go. And like, I'm sure that was like attracted good energy towards me. And so I did the ballet class, got kept, and they cut it from 70 to like 22 people. Then it was the modern class. And then they were like, we're keeping 8 people for solos. And like I remember being at Friendly's. Do you know what Friendly's is? It's like an
I feel
ice cream
yes,
restaurant.
yes.
So I was getting
I'm familiar.
I was getting dinner with my dance teacher at Friendly's, which we love so much. We were getting like chicken fingers and ice cream. And she was like, I'm going to cut your solo song. Like it's supposed to be 2 minutes long for the Juilliard audition. And mine usually was 3 minutes for competition. And I was like, you don't have to cut it. Like, I'm not going to make it to there. Like, you don't have to cut it. So then I get called for the solo round. I was like, well, thank God she cut it. So I went in, and then they cut it down from 8 to 5 for the choreo round. And they just kind of like showed how you would take a note, how you would apply the note, if you would be egoic about the note, kind of a situation to see how you would respond to that in a professional setting. And they cut it from 5 to 4. And then I had an interview, and they were like, okay, you're one of 40. We'll let you know if you're one of 24. And then they called me 2 days after my 18th birthday. And yeah, so then that opened up new doors for me. I've never done modern before. Like, I did one basic modern class at my studio, and then I was opened up to all of these new channels of dance. So besides competition and being versatile, ballet, tap, jazz, point, all that, musical theater, now I had all of these modern techniques that I've never studied in my life, which changed my dancing tremendously. Then junior year, they had an audition for 8 people if they wanted to do voice for dancers. And that's when I started singing. So I like did like middle school drama club where we like acted the same 3 plays over and over that were recycled for decades. And this like little rinky dink drama club. But my drama club teacher, Miss Hambrick, she took everything so seriously. And that made me want to be serious and show up to drama club and like know my lines and show up. And I didn't really sing except for my 8th grade show. It was like tied to the tracks, like a Western, like a heroine gets tied to the tracks and the guy with a little mustache like ties her down. Like it was like that kind of old school play. And that was my first like real play where I was like the lead and had lines and like sung along with a track that literally had the words in it. So it was like very rinky dink. So that was my first time like singing and acting. And then I didn't start singing for real until junior year of college. And I didn't have a book. I did not know what a mix was. I didn't know what head voice or chest was. Still get confused to this day. No clue.
No.
The only music I can read is for a clarinet because I took band 5 years. Truly can't. I don't know what it means. I can read the rhythms, but that's about it. I was so lost. But then my teacher at school, Badine Magaziner, she helped me create a book. She helped me create like an audition song, like a legit one and a musical theater one. And it was like very 101 training that really helped me to push me forward. And we weren't allowed to audition while we were in college. So that gave me time to really like
concentrate and like
get better and get more confident in my singing. And like still to this day, like I have such singing anxiety just because I'm so used to expressing myself through movement. But yeah, that's how I got into singing. So, and then I graduated and then booked a musical, and that experience was basically my first like professional gig.
And you booked like really cool roles on tour.
Yeah, it had the best time.
Like literally amazing shows, especially dancing wise.
Yeah. I started with Finding Neverland in the Peter Pan track, which covers a lot of other ensemble duties. But it was like Peter Pan started the show. So I had to be like warming up like at half hour when everybody else was just chilling backstage. And I was like doing burpees on stage because Mia's choreo is so athletic and challenging that it's like straight out the gate, you were like doing log rolls and running around the stage, like playing tag with Tinkerbell. And yeah, that was so incredible. Such an incredible experience. It was the
Well,
best.
and you get to play like be an iconic character on
Yeah.
stage every night,
Yeah.
which is really cool. Which is like
Yeah.
hey, I'm living a Disney dream kind
Oh,
of
it was. And
thing.
I'm such a Disney girl too that it was just everything to me. I like went on vacation to Disney World during that contract. Like I got like 4 days off, and then I came back and I was like, yeah, this is awesome. Because ever since I was born, I've gone to Disney World every 2 years because my family's vacation club. So
Love
my
that.
grandfather gifted that to us, but before he passed away, so we get to go every other year for like a good amount of time, and it's so much fun.
Oh,
So like the Disney girl in me was so excited to be a part of that, and it just brought out my inner child and just so much joy and exuberance in that role. Even though we were doing one-nighters and like traveling bus and truck, it was non-equity. We weren't really covered by a union. And yeah, we had on-stage swings. I called out maybe twice that whole tour.
oh my
And
God.
yeah, it was 2 days in a row. I had back pain and then I was back in action. But yeah, like it was an incredible experience. Yeah.
Well, I want to ask more about that tour and like the
Yeah.
process of that tour, but also I want to go back to like how you were talking about like Juilliard and all that stuff and
Yeah.
auditions. And isn't it like so funny that like I feel like we're the only people who don't believe in ourselves.
Oh,
Like
100%. We're our own worst critic.
yeah, and like everyone else was like, "You're gonna get in," and you're like, "I
Yeah.
don't know."
Like, absolutely not. What are you thinking? What is wrong with you?
Oh my God. But like that is everyone else it sounded like was like, you're for sure gonna get in. And you're just like, no,
Yeah, no clue. No
maybe
idea.
not.
Well, I just knew I wanted to go to school in New York, so I was just crossing my fingers for any school in New York.
You're like, yes, I made it to New York.
Yeah, thank God.
What was like the most valuable thing that you learned at Juilliard?
Hmm. I think the most valuable thing I learned was it's better to be as versatile as possible than to really hone in on one single craft. I know that that might be up in the air with some people, but I did not dance the same after my first semester of college. Like they taught me how to hold myself different. They told me how to just like the way I carry myself in a room, the way that I respond to notes, the way that I don't take things personally that aren't personal. Because that's so hard as a dancer, is when you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're like, it's my fault. And like, no, these teachers are just trying to show you how to hold yourself, how to be better, how to be your best self with the facility you have. But it's very easy to take things like that personally. And I remember them getting a little bit mad at me because they, around junior year, they do a European audition tour where a lot of the class will go to Europe to audition for companies like NDT, Batsheva, really, really beautifully put together artistic companies that are modern based, ballet companies all over Europe. And from the get go, that was not my goal. I told them right away, out of like during the interview process of the audition, I said, I want to be on Broadway. That's what I've been working on my whole life. And they were like, yeah, there's a voice for dancers class. You could probably get in, like something you might be able to be interested in getting into if you do get accepted. They talked about that. I told them I had dreams of being a Rockette at one point, and that I wanted to tour with my dance teacher's sister's company. And my dance teacher's sister, her name's Adrienne Canterna. She owns a company called Sweeper Productions, formerly known as Bad Boys of Dance. And they traveled Europe and they do a show called Rock the Ballet. And that was something I really wanted to do. So they were like, oh, she is interested in touring like the Europe route. So I think that they were kind of hoping to open more doors for me with like technical elements. And I love contemporary ballet so much. And like, frankly, I hate point. Like I still love to do it. Like I still love to do it, but I absolutely hate how I feel. My feet feel. My
My
feet swell.
sister
My shoes. It's awful.
tried it.
But
So
I will say that I'm pretty good at ballet and contemporary ballet, to be specific. And I just remember being like, oh, like, am I wasting my technique by not going to these companies, by not going on this European audition? And I remember them getting a little angry, but I just remember, oh no, I'm sticking to my guns. This is what I want. And just kind of like not allowing other people to suggest things for you, and but know when to say no. And I think that's what I learned. I was like, I will show you that I can do all of these styles in school. I will do the workshops. I will show you that I'm not just a musical theater one trick pony. And a lot of college felt like I was proving myself as one does in college. And yeah, and then I was sticking to my guns. And then I got Lauren Lataro, who choreographed Waitress and many other productions, The Who's Tommy, all of them, to do my senior solo because my friend Emily Tate, who was 2 years older than me, who had done so much musical theater, Cats on Broadway, all this stuff, was like, you should ask Lauren. So then I had the connection with Lauren. And then when I did my showcase, I got my agent. So it's just kind of like knowing how to stand your ground when you're getting advice from like 30 different people and you feel like you're like, I should do all of it. What am I doing? Like, I'm overwhelmed. It's like, no, you know what you want to do. You've wanted to do this. You have all of these tools in your toolbox to pull from. If, hey, maybe there's a ballet musical, like maybe if there's a tap musical, like you'll be able to pull from all of those techniques. Like modern, if like Hofesh, like the Fiddler tour, like comes around, like not the right role for me, but like I'm saying, like there's different choreographers where you can pull from those different techniques. Be versatile, know when to say no. I think were my big things I took away from college.
Yes, yes. And like okay, I totally agree with contemporary. I don't dance, but like
Yeah.
watching it is just like my favorite. I feel like it's always been
it.
like when I was watching like Dance Moms on
Yeah,
TV,
classic.
just like every time they did contemporary, I was all in.
Of course. Oh my God, Abby's studio is so close to my hometown. So, and we competed with her studio. I know their senior team
Oh
that
my
was right
gosh.
above them. Yeah. So,
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of like I don't know my dance competition knowledge is from Dance Moms, and I'm sure it's
Love
so
it.
much different than Dance Moms in real
Oh,
life
yeah.
living
Yeah.
it.
Some competitions on that show were made up for the show.
Yeah,
Like it's very much scripted.
that's what
But
I heard.
yeah, but those girls are absolutely phenomenal. Like they thrived at national
Uh,
competitions. I remember watching Maddie. Like we both were in an organization called Dance Masters of America. And she was they were in the Pennsylvania chapter. We were in the Maryland, like Mid-Atlantic chapter. And I was a backstage helper for when she was
oh,
going for Petite Miss Dance of America. This is like the titles I was talking about earlier. It was like Dance Masters of America. You could win Miss Dance of America or Teen Miss or Junior Miss or Petite Miss. So she was going for Petite Miss. She ended up winning first runner up. But I remember like holding her hand backstage and like she did a tab solo to Sunshine, Lollipops, and Rainbows. Look it up on YouTube. Greatest thing I've ever seen. So sharp, a star at
oh
8 years old. And I just remember her going and being like, I really want this girl to win. And I was honestly sad when she did it.
yeah.
But I vividly remember that. And she was very kind. Like all of them are so talented. But yeah, competition is very different than Dance Moms.
Yes,
Very
maybe a little less drama, but a
less
lot of
dramatic.
nervousness.
Yeah, definitely less dramatic.
I mean, I feel like they show the nervousness backstage though well.
Oh, for sure.
Anxiety backstage.
And some moms are nuts. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. Like I had people put lipstick on my costumes growing up and hide my shoes behind couches, and I had bullies, and that's real life.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Thankfully, my mom didn't know the difference between a pointed foot and a sickle. So like, I was in the clear. I was in the clear.
Woo!
So, yeah.
Yes. So I want to ask more about Finding Neverland. So
Yeah.
you're talking about the tour process and about like how it was like a lot of one-nighters.
Yeah.
How do you prepare like to go out on a tour like that and like take care of your health on that tour?
Well, this was my literal first rodeo, so I had no idea what I was doing. One of my best friends, Jeff Sullivan, he played J.M. Barrie on the tour. And
Oh,
there was a moment, he's gonna die when he hears this. It was my favorite moment. It was kind of like all right, let's like figure out what we're doing here. I went up to him and asked him if he covered anybody. He was the legit lead of the show. do you cover anyone? No, I'm Jay and Barry. And I was like, this guy thinks I'm weird now. I was like, great. I'm not gonna make any friends here. Like, this is gonna be awful. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, I just was not prepared, but I was just so excited, and I just had my bags packed and was packing up until the last minute and packed way too much stuff. I had no idea. We got 2 big suitcases and 1 little one, I think. Or no, 1 big, 1 little? Truly can't remember. But on normal like equity tours, you have your own room, you have your own bus seat. And non-equity tours, you share a bus seat with somebody and you share a hotel room with somebody. The girl I shared, sorry about the motorcycle cycle. The girl I shared my my room with is going to be my roommate in my new apartment that I'm literally moving into tomorrow. So like we were like this experience of Finding Neverland non-ec tour, bus and truck. I've met some of my greatest friends that'd be my roommate. And I don't know when you can release this, but one of my very best friends from this tour is going to be joining the Outsiders. So it's a huge like turnaround moment, and it's going to be announced very soon. But I'm so like these people are like my first musical theater friends that I had, and yeah, I shared a bus with the person who's going to be joining the show at the Jacobs. We were bus buddies. We spent probably weeks of our lives next to each other, like 12-hour bus rides. It was, yeah.
Like, what are the
Crazy.
chances?
What are the chances? He's the greatest. But at first I had no idea how to prepare for this. I was not expecting that I would wake up at 6 in the morning, pay for my hotel room, get on a bus and be on the bus from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. and then check into a hotel at 3 p.m. and then have to get on the bus at 3:45 to go to the theater while they load it in. And we did our makeup and did fight and lift call and mic check every single theater. It was a very exhausting, but I was young. I was 22, 23. No, 23. And yeah, and I was like sprightly and just
You're like,
yeah,
I got this.
I got this. And like halfway through the tour, I realized like, oh, like this is tough. This is tough. I'm exhausted. And like I'm wondering how like I was one of the youngest people on the tour. I'm like wondering how the older people are like taking care of their voice. And I was learning how to like go out and also dance. And then like it would be my friend's birthday and we'd go out until 3 in the morning. And then I'd wake up the next day and be like, wow, I can't do that. Like learning that for the first time.
Yep.
Like this, I will never do that again. I feel miserable. And like that kind of stuff. And learning that at a young age and learning when is appropriate to like stay out late. When is it not? When is there a golden day, which is like a day off, no travel? That's when you have fun. Or the day before that is when you have fun. When you don't have a 14-hour bus day is when you have fun.
God.
Yeah, I went to 48 states. No Alaska, no Hawaii. But because of that, I drove
All
through
the
every
things, though. Besides
lots of corn, lots of cows. Yeah, it was good.
Oh my
But
goodness.
yeah, really nothing can prepare you for it unless you really do your research. And I think now, like at that time, like TikTok wasn't a thing. Like you couldn't really like be like, oh, look at me while I go on my national tour. Get ready with me while I do this for a one-nighter. Like now you have access to so much and see so much where you can be so prepared now. Whereas I was just kind of like, I don't know all of my friends from college aren't doing this, so I'm on my own here.
What do I do?
Yeah, what do I do? But yeah, oh, it was crazy. There's like Motel Sixes. They put you in like they don't have like a rule to what kind of hotels they put you in. And like one time we were in a Motel 6, like there was a bed bug situation. Like it's that kind of stuff. And then we'd have a 1 week sit down and I'd be like, this is nice. But then when Cats came around, that was covered by the union and I got my equity card that way. And like my first time performing, I was at a 6-week sit down in Toronto and had my own plush Airbnb. Like I was like,
Yeah, glamorous.
So as much as I loved Finding Neverland and traveling and everything, it really was magical. I really didn't have a bad time. It was just a tough schedule. We had like 21 nighters in a row one time. Like what? Like how? I can barely get to the theater and feel like I'm awake. Like I don't know how I've been running around town like that. But then when I got to Cats, I was like, it almost made me appreciate, oh, we're flying everywhere. Like I get my own bus seat if we're taking a car. I can afford an Airbnb. I can like sit down and decorate my station for once. Like, yeah, we'd have like little trinkets that we'd keep in our little box that we'd like unbox and like put on our station every night and put it back. But you couldn't really like feel like you were home anywhere. Yeah. So 1 week sit downs were an extreme luxury when we were on the Finding Neverland tour. But Cats, it was like the shortest amount of time we're at a place was maybe 4 days. So it was like, oh, we can breathe.
Yes. You're like, this is glamorous.
Yeah. This is plush. Yeah.
So, okay, so I assume the tour routes were kind of different on each tour. Did you all go to like smaller cities on the Finding Neverland tour?
Yes, middle of nowhere, like Butte, Montana. Like where's that on the map? Like no idea. Like and the theaters sometimes were so small that we couldn't load in all of our set. So like I'm supposed to fly, and then some days I'd just be lifted, or like some days I would just be on a chair. Like it was very like there are some rules that can be bent so far with non-equity tours that can't really be
Oh my God.
approached or executed in an equity tour. So like, yeah, there were days where the load-in was so dangerous because the stage doors for the props were so small and the set pieces were so small that we like had to hold curtain for like a half hour. Or yeah, that was Butte, Montana. That all just came back to me right now. But there were cities that I visited that I never would have seen before in my life that I love. Sioux Falls, South Dakota. That was one of my top 5 cities. San Luis Obispo in California. Loved it. And then like with tours, I like kind of found out like, oh, like none of these cities even come close to New York. Like no shame on those cities. But the closest I found in New York was DC and Toronto. And I think Toronto was number 1 on my list.
Oh,
of my touring experience. The Princess of Wales Theater there is amazing. And then my Airbnb was right across the street. So I would just like wake up and like go to the theater and get my coffee and like la la la. But yeah, plush life and Cats. But yeah. And meanwhile, me and my friend Liz Lester, who's my roommate now, we would she just got off the Chicago tour. She's so talented. We would have to like Uber to get Starbucks and like how are we're gonna walk on the side of the street to get to a Walmart to get our groceries. Like it was like that versus, oh, like, hey, I actually have the funds to order groceries or order some food tonight. Or hey, there's a Trader Joe's down the block, a Whole Foods, like the convenience of it all. But yeah, the middle of nowhere towns honestly were the best. And like we just bonded so much because if there was nothing to do, like if we were in like a Residence Inn and like all there was a Waffle House, like my friends and I would like go to the Waffle House, we'd make the best out of it, or like an Outback or an Applebee's, like, you know, those like classic like off-road exit little plazas. We made the best of it, and it just gave me so much more appreciation for the good stuff that I got once I got my equity card, because I appreciated the Applebee's in the middle of nowhere, Texas. Like that was fun for me. And now that I'm like in Cats, when we were in Toronto and we're going to like the top of the CN Tower and like eating a luxury meal, I'm like, yeah, honestly, like I kind of wish I was at Applebee's right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like I miss that.
And like, who knows, like what person in one of those small town theaters had never seen a theater show before.
Right.
Was also like, wait, I want to do this with my life now.
Right. And people have come to the outsiders who saw me in Finding Neverland. And they're like, I saw you in this so-and-so city during Finding Neverland. And I'd be like, no way. And I'd be like, can I have a hug? Like, it's like the best feeling. Like, oh my gosh, you've seen me go from like nothing to this. And
they've seen your journey.
Yeah. So it's yeah. Very great.
I hope we can't hear my dog barking in the background. Some other dog just, oh my God. I'm like,
jealous I want one.
She's the best, but except for when she barks, and I'm like, so Cats is another really cool, awesome show for a dancer. had that like been on your bucket list as a dancer?
Yes, I had the DVD or the 87, 86 version.
Oh,
I'm definitely getting that wrong right
okay.
now. The one that Gillian Lynn choreographed where Jacob Brent's Mr. Mistopheles and like it's like iconic film. It's from the London cast. And I played that over and over. This was like my second wind of the same feeling I got with Gypsy. So this is my second obsession was cats. Probably around like 10, around 10. It's when I like became like a musical theater girly.
Yes.
Um, so then I had an obsession with cats as well as the same time I had an obsession with Little Shop of Horrors because I had a crush on
Ooh.
Rick Moranis. So that's a long story. But the Cats film, like I would watch it for good luck before dance competitions.
Oh
Can
my
you
God.
I would do that and I would watch it the same part every time before I would get ready for my solos. I'd be like, okay, that's what I want to do with my life. I'm going to channel that and take it on a stage with me. And I'm
Yes.
like 10, like, what am I doing? Like, what is this fantasy? Um, anyway, uh, but yeah, I remember watching the girl who played Victoria do her développé for the first time and be like, how do I work towards that? How do I work towards that? Then fast forward to my senior year of college, and one of my best friends was like, "Hey, do you want to audition for Cats with me?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be my first audition. It's going to be my first audition for Broadway." And we went in and we danced. It's the Andy Blankenbuehler version that he modified Gillian Lynn's choreography to be more modern. And Andy Blankenbuehler is my favorite choreographer on the planet. And he saw me and like I got all the way through and he was like, really great work. I got down, this was like a classic, got down to the final two, they didn't pick you, like kind of situation, but it was for Victoria on Broadway. So then I was like, if that was my first audition, I think I can do this. And that
Yeah.
kind of gave me a
Motivation.
confidence boost in a way to be like, oh, okay. But I remember after the first audition, I didn't get a call back because I didn't have an agent at the time. This was all like, I went there at 5 a.m. and wrote my name on a list. And yeah. And then I realized I wasn't called back. Also, one of the casting directors for this casted for The Outsiders. So like they've seen all of this.
It's
Um,
yeah, it's like you're making these connections along the way that you don't even realize at the time.
realize, no
Wait.
clue. Yeah. Um, and I remember like going home and crying and just being like, this is my first audition. Like, I'm never going to make it. And like having a glass of wine, like my old apartment. And then I get a Facebook message. So somebody I worked for at work study in the costume shop of Juilliard was best friends with this casting director. It was like, he's trying to reach you. You have a callback tomorrow at 11. And I was like,
Like, yeah.
oh, so I'm sitting here sobbing, like snot, drinking wine, like nothing's gonna go my way. And I was like, wait a minute, I need to get my ish together and get ready to go. Then I ended up making it through the whole way, and then that's what happened.
Oh
Um,
my God.
it was just so funny, like how I'm just like the world's worst critic and skeptic and of my own craft. And yeah, oh my gosh, that was the best week. And then I would get called in and called in again, but no one would be leaving the show. So it was like their 6 month check in where all equity shows have to do a 6 month audition to update their files for who they want for replacements if or a vacation swing if something goes wrong. So
Yeah.
they have to have all of that prepared. Um, then Finding Neverland came. So Cats was kind of off my radar for a bit. And then at the end of Finding Neverland, I got an email saying, we have an audition for you for Cats, but I couldn't leave the tour. So I was like, oh no, oh no, oh no. Like, I need to do this. So I auditioned for the tour. It didn't go my way. Then Finding Neverland, I went out for Finding Neverland, came back. Then I got an email. It was like around October 2019. It's like right pre pandemic.
Gosh.
And
Early.
they were like, the Tantomile track, which is one of the twin cats, is
Yeah.
opening up on tour, and they're really interested in you taping for this. But this track covers Victoria and Syllabub, so we need Syllabub tapes as soon as possible. So I got one of my Finding Neverland best friends, Spencer, who now goes on family vacations with me, best press person around, got him to film me that day, sent in the tapes. A week later on Halloween, I got a call that they were like, can you leave in 2 days? And I was like, no. So they gave me like 5 days. I was like, there's no way I'm packing up my life in 2 days and finding a sublet and like all that stuff. Like, there's no way.
Realistically, yeah.
I was like, there is no way. So thankfully, they like gave me a couple more days to go. But I replaced one of my really dear friends, Laura Kaufman, as Tantomile, and I never got to go on as Victoria. There was a week that I was supposed to go on as Victoria in April 2020. And we all know how that happens. But I did get to go on a syllabub and I sung Memory with Donna Vivino, which was nuts. That was my first like solo singing. And believe if you saw my hands, they were like this. But yeah, like I booked that and that was the best phone call of my life because I had auditioned for Broadway, I think maybe 5 times, and then the tour 2 more. I think it was a total of 7 times, and then the 8th time. So I was like, I'm gonna keep auditioning for this until I get the show.
What a dream. Hey.
And I love Cats. It is a bizarre show, but I love it. If you are dancing your ass off, you are literally giving everything. And every show, I like danced my heart out every day. And every day that I left the theater, I was so exhausted. My hair was wet from sweat and my pin curls, not from rain this time, just straight up sweat. I really want to find a picture of me when I took out pin curls to show you. I'm actually.
Oh my God, do it.
Back in the day.
I think the first Broadway song that I ever heard was probably Jellicle Cats from Broadway Kids.
Oh, it's the best. And like I remember getting introduced to Cats from my dance studio's recital. They did like a Cats opening number one year when I was a kid, and I was like, yeah, I would like to do that.
I had no clue what it was about. I just was obsessed with the Broadway Kids albums. I was like,
also funny because like at age 11, I would usually only watch like the heavy dance parts and then not watch the in between. I would like fast forward. Then the first time I watched it all the way through, I watched how like old Deuteronomy was kidnapped and then Mr. Mistopheles brought him back. And something about that when he brought him back made me sob as like a 10-year-old kid. And I was like, I get it. Meanwhile, people are like, what the F is Cats? And like 10-year-old me is like having an epiphany of like, oh my God, this story is so beautiful. Like nuts. I was a crazy kid. Okay, it's coming. Okay.
You understood creative genius.
Oh, no. But maybe when I was 10. Okay, love this. Okay, we're getting into Cats. Here we are. I'm going to have that picture in like 5 seconds.
Did you get to see the recent the recent Cats revival that
the Jellicle Ball one downtown? Yes. I haven't yet. And I know that they have Sunday night shows, so before it closes, I have to go.
Oh,
I have to go. I need to see Andre's shows.
Schedule.
Right, this is what my hair looked like after I took it out of pink curls.
Oh my God.
We called it my Michael Phelps.
Showbiz.
And like, yeah, Cats was absolutely everything. That was when I was in Toronto. The best.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, so I feel like I might know your answer to this based on like what you were saying about Cats earlier. But if you could go back to Cats and play any role, which would it be?
Victoria.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
It's my one thing that I didn't check off my to-do list. Like I joined November 2019 and then March right before my birthday. Oh. My first day of quarantine was my 25th birthday. And I was like, no. I was so mad. I was like, my life. Oh my God. I was so sad, as everyone was. But yeah, it was from November till March 16th. That
why did this have to get cut short?
We were in Ottawa, Canada, and it shut down. And thank God, one of my friends lived in Pennsylvania, so we took a car together because most people were bused to New York to travel home. Thankfully, I wasn't on that bus. A lot of the Cats got COVID, which is crazy. And then, yeah, we drove home and it was just kind of like, what's going on?
Hey.
We maybe did 2 shows in Ottawa, Canada at the most beautiful theater in the world. I can't even remember what it was called. It's so, oh my gosh, it was like 4 mezzanines. It was stunning.
See theater in Canada.
Movie. And then they were like, yep, nope. Actually, the next show, the Cats can't go off stage. Because you know how like we would run around in the audience and like not touch people, but like,
yeah.
And then they were like, you can't go off stage. And I was like, something's wrong. And then that day during rehearsal, they were like, Broadway shut down. And we were like, So okay.
Yeah, it's like you're trying
We
to
know
be,
what's going to happen, but we don't want to talk about it.
yeah, you're trying to be positive, but it's like
Yeah.
it's hard when
Uh,
there's like news articles everywhere, like
yeah.
Broadway shut down, till
I
when?
truly would do anything to play Victoria just once. And like they like had me like try on all the costumes and everything, and it was so much fun. Like this is me as Victoria. But I
Oh
never got to do it.
my
I
gosh.
never got to do it. One day, if my legs still go.
Just like wait at a Sunday night show for the Jellicle Ball one.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly.
Hey,
We like learn how to
do,
vote. Quick.
do you need anyone to
Yeah. Do you have anybody? Do you need a swing? I got you.
right? And be like, I'm prepared.
I'm ready.
I know it. I know it. And you got to pick up like makeup skills during the show. So that's
Yeah.
cool
Oh
because
my
you get to do
gosh.
your
People
makeup.
always ask me how I do my wing liner so well. First of all, I started doing wing liner in high school because I was trying to be hip. And then cats, like I had to do my whole plot of makeup. The first time I did it took me an hour and 15 minutes. And then I got it down to a half hour. Like if I really rushed through it, half hour.
Oh my
So like think about how early I had to get to the theater and stuff. And then I'd have to do a full warm up because that's such a dance heavy show. Like if you weren't warm, you were gonna hurt yourself.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, those makeup skills, I
Oh.
could do that wing liner so fast because of that. And now I'm just like the outsiders makeup, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, half hour can be called, and I can be have no makeup on, and I'll be fine.
I mean, I'm impressed because it would take me like 10 hours to do that makeup.
Yeah, yeah,
I'd be
it's
like,
done.
nope, start over.
And the first time it looked absolutely heinous. It was not great. And like you
Hey,
slowly like get better at it, and yeah,
hey, people, I don't think people are like paying attention to the details in the makeup.
yeah.
You know, I don't know. Maybe like some like 10-year-old you would
Oh
have.
yeah, super
But
fans of it all. The people who were dressed as full cats in the audience. There
yes.
were several.
Oh my God. The first time I
Yeah,
saw
full
Cats
cosplay.
live, it was like I was terrified. No one told me that
The
in the
beginning,
aisle seat that everyone comes up to you, and I was like,
scary. It's
wait.
quite a scary experience. Yeah.
I'm like, why didn't anyone warn me?
Yeah.
So I want to talk The Outsiders, your Broadway debut.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
was your audition process like for The
Oh my
Outsiders?
gosh. I got a call for this probably beginning of April or end of March. And we went in and we did excerpt from the Coopermans that was to the track of Little Brother.
Oh,
That went really well. And then we got called back to sing. So I came in and sung. And that day when we came back to sing, everyone was talking about how this pianist was not playing the right tempo or would play every song really fast. So I was singing a slow Lady Gaga sad song. That was my song of choice, my pop rock song of
oh my
choice.
God.
Dope by Lady Gaga from Art Pop. And this girl, this song is so slow and low, and like Gaga's like wailing. She plays it like it's an upbeat, like we were like, I could see the eyes of the people like on the like Matt Hinckley, who's our like music director, and the Coopermans were sitting there and the casting, and I just remember seeing their eyes be like, yeah, let's try that again, a little slower, and I was like, yeah, okay, thank you. They understand. Usually they don't care. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, they realized that this pianist is playing the song way too fast. So they like tried again and like it worked out and they were like, thank you so much. And I was like, yeah, thank you. I was like, they were like a little bit quick. Yeah. And I was like, yeah. And then I left and it was so funny. I got called back for partnering. And then this callback was one of the craziest callbacks I've ever had. Everyone was partnered with all the girls were partnered with a guy, and my partner was so talented. He's so talented. However, when we did the combination, there was a part where we did a throw up. They threw us into a back walkover, and I was thinking, we're a little bit close to the table where casting sits. I was thrown into a table. And it's like it's very much a joke now, but at the time I was like,
Like,
"Oh, they're definitely gonna stop the music." Like it was so loud, like bottles like fell, like papers were everywhere, and then they didn't stop the music. And I look up at the casting director who cast me for Cats, and he just goes, and we were like laughing together. I was like, "There's no way this is happening to me right now. This is over for me. This is over for me." And then we finish it, and then we had to do an improv for 2 minutes, like a drive-in improv.
After crashing
We're
into a table.
what?
After crashing into a table.
We're crashing into the table. So we start improving. So we do this one lift, and I feel my rib pop. And I was like, I think I just hurt myself. So then I like walked to the side, and then they were like, Xavier goes, does anybody want to give it another go? And then he like was looking at me, and I was like, please, please, please. We do it again. It was great. We improv, and then I was like, there's no way we're gonna improv again. Then he does the lift again that popped my rib, and now it really hurts. And then I'm like, I finished the combo, whatever. They were like, thank you. Like, we'll call you back for another round of partnering down the line. I had to get on a train that day to do my side gig of judging dance competitions to pay my rent. So I had to carry a heavy duffel bag, a weekend bag, which I missed the first day of this dance competition for to audition for this. Thank God I didn't say no to this audition. And I couldn't dance for probably 2 weeks because I thought I had broken my rib. And this is when I was like poor, working side jobs, didn't have health insurance. So I walk into a city MD and they're like, it's going to be a $250 copay. And I was like, I can't afford that. So I was like, am I just walking around with like a fractured rib or like, but I just kind of
You're like, whatever.
went with my own diagnosis and said it was severely bruised. And then eventually it felt better after like weeks of not doing anything.
So maybe.
Who knows? I mean, people who freelance and like are dancers in the city with no money get it. And then I remember I never call my agent, like rarely in a complaining way, like I'm hurt, like that audition sucked. Like I've never had that kind of vocabulary with my agent. I called her up and I was sobbing and I was like, I think I broke my rib. I really want to do this job. Like I really feel like this choreography is right for me. This happened. I think I'm hurt. And then I was like, can you just please tell him for me that I would love to come back in? And she called me. We finished the phone call and then she called me back and she was like, well, you already got a call back before I could send anything. And I was like, oh my God. And then we had another partnering call back where I was partnered with a very famous newsy dancer. So he was like, is this okay? Is this okay? And I was like, the last audition I was thrown into a table. Like it will be okay. I promise.
It will be fine.
And like, literally no shame whatsoever to my partner who that happened with. He is now on Broadway. Like he is very much an incredible partner. We just ran out of space. We just ran out of space.
Enough space in the room.
Yeah, for trying to show off in a lift. Like really, none of that was his fault. And yeah, so the partnering went super well. And then there was a final callback and they were like, we want you to read these sides. It was like a Cherry and Dally scene that has been cut from the show. They want you to sing your song again. And then we go to, I think it's Baryshnikov Studios, and they're huge, gorgeous studios in Midtown, close to like the water. And when I tell you, when you walked in, it was like the Last Supper. It was like 20 people in a row at a table like this. Like not even joking. And these are long studios. The entirety was covered with tables and people. And I was like, this is everybody. Because sometimes when I get callbacks for auditions, I don't read who's in the room, so I don't get nervous about it, which is kind of also maybe not the best, but it does help with my imposter syndrome and anxiety. So I do go in there and sing. So there's a chair there, and Danya's in the middle, our director.
Yes.
And I sit down and we start having like an interview. She just asked me about my life. And she's just trying to get to know us as people, because she's never done a musical before. She's only done plays. So she likes to really get to know who she's wanting to hire. So I like shared with her my upbringing, I shared with her my college experience, like what I want to do with my life, like just some like fun facts about me. And yeah, it was just kind of like a beautiful moment where I just kind of blurred out my peripheral vision and just like was trying to have a conversation with just her. And then I stand up and Justin Levine was like, our supervisor was like, let's sing. And I was like, okay. So I sung Dope by Lady Gaga. He was like, okay, it's a little low. Can you change the key right now? And I was like, as like a non-singer, I was like, yes, I can. And I was just like, you know what? Yep, I can do that. So he starts playing it, and like I have a pretty good ear, so it worked out. And then I sung it all the way through, and they were like, "Awesome, let's do the scenes." They did the scenes. They went so well. It was like probably the best callback I've ever had in my life. And I was like, "Oh, I could book this job." And they were really polite to me, and they were like really, really good feedback was being given by like the whole Last Supper image of it all. And I was like, I want this. This would be like originating a part. Like I truly didn't understand. This was like the very first stages of it post pandemic.
Yes.
And I remember my mom being like, I love The Outsiders. I love Matt Dillon and like Swayze and Rob Lowe. Like, of course, of course. And so that happened. And then, oh my gosh, I was at home for Easter weekend, and me and my mom and my aunt were out at a restaurant, and I had like just gone through a difficult time, and like she was giving me a pep talk, and like at the end of the pep talk, my phone rang and it was my agent, and I knew, and I just started sobbing, and I was just like, no way, no way, no way, no way, and they were like, all right, we're gonna give you the info, la la la, and then that's
It
where it all started, and
fell
it's
into
been
place.
with me ever since.
Oh my goodness. And like how special to have like family with you.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's the best when you have friends around you when you get those calls.
Oh my
Like,
goodness.
this process, I had 3 separate calls. So it was for Daryl Roth, the workshop, which is where Titanic is right now.
Oh my
That's where
God,
we did our 2-day workshop. It was everything.
yes.
And then what did I do? Then La Jolla. I got a call from La Jolla, and they were like, "You're understudying Marcia now." I
Ah,
was like, "Oh, that's great." So I did like a Marcia put in La Jolla, and then I got the call that I would be continuing to Broadway, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing!" And they were like, "There are talking about a Cherry offer. We'll get back to you on that." And then like 2 weeks later, I got a call, and they were like, "You're gonna be a Cherry understudy too." And I was like,
God.
"What?" Like,
Understudying two roles.
yeah, crazy. And it's like Cats again, 2 roles. It's like the thing. It's a thing for
Yes.
me.
Oh my, how
So
I feel like I didn't really ask about like cats. So when like
yeah,
you got the call for the outsiders about understudying two roles, how do
yeah.
you go about mentally preparing to learn those two roles?
The thing is, like, I can't see myself swinging unless it's for a show I'm like so in love with. But like being on stage, like playing company and covering, I have a very good memory. Like for any like picking up choreo, remembering things. Like I remember like my first solo, like when I was 8. I could do it right now. Like I have very good like photographic choreography memory. And yeah, I also just knew Cats so well that I just wasn't worried. That I was like, okay, I know this song. Whereas somebody who comes in and doesn't know anything about Cats will probably be so scatterbrained. Whereas I'm like, oh, okay, I know this track from the inside out. I know what this character stands for. I know what this character stands for since I was 10. So it was kind of like, okay, I have my responsibilities and I can tap into these others.
Yeah.
Um, and also with Cats, I think this started with Andrew Lloyd Webber. I don't know if it started with Andy Blankenbuehler, but each cat has 3 different adjectives and they're all separate. So it's just kind of like you pull from those words. One of mine was telepathic. So I was like the psychic cat. And like Victoria, she's like pure. And there's 2 other adjectives like syllabubs, childlike. And each individual cat has like their own worksheet of like what their adjectives are, how they crawl, so it's like very easy to like pull from that because a lot of cats is a lot of improv. So you're on stage for 2.5 hours, just like kind of sitting and watching the other cats. Um,
Acting through that.
yeah, so that I wasn't intimidated by that at all because I knew that I could tap into each of the characters and know them and take care of them if that were to ever happen. And I went on, I think, 3 times for Syllabub, which was fun. Yeah, where was I? I was in Pittsburgh. Speaking of dancing, I was
Oh,
in Pittsburgh.
hey, that's a good city
Yeah, and it
though.
was so close to Maryland, so like my
Yeah.
family came and it's really cool.
I
Yeah.
mean, so then like that kind of prepared you for taking on like this understudying on
Yeah.
Broadway. You're like,
Yeah,
okay, I've done this before, so
totally.
I like know how to go about it and learn like
Yeah.
the
And
roles.
like it's a little different now because it's a lot of like singing and what's it called? A lot more singing and a lot more dialogue. Whereas in what's I gonna say? In Cats, it was mostly dancing that I needed to know, or like songs. Whereas this is lines and acting, and there are not very many females on stage. So when a female comes on stage, it's very obvious. So it's not like you can kind of just like hide in the ensemble, or like hide. Like, you really can't hide even in the ensemble. Um, but like I know Marcia so well, I know Cherry so well. I've been seeing them be built and molded from the very beginning. And like Cherry is somebody who breaks the mold of the socias, and Marcia is somebody who wants to but feels like she needs to stay with them. Where Beverly's like she's not even thinking about touching the research side. I think it's a lot about knowing who the characters are,
Like deep
and
down.
like that's half of the battle. And then you
Yeah.
can read your lines and sing your songs. But yeah, if you're like confident in knowing who these characters are that they want you to portray or understudy, or um, you're good to go.
Well, and that choreography on stage, especially during the Rumble scene,
Yeah.
is like I can't imagine like rehearsing for that and like having that come together.
Yeah, it's wild. It used to just be all men. It used to just be all men back in Daryl Roth. No dirt, no rain. And then we did a movement workshop in August of 2022
God.
where we went to a warehouse in Brooklyn and like started trying different things for the floor, like dirt and sand, and like we used the rain. We had rain bars where we practiced with like a tarp. And that day was one of the most fun days of my life because all the girls had their hair down and it was like very artsy and very different. And then in La Jolla, only one girl got to do the Rumble with Ace, and the rest of us just kind of came in the end as like a nightmare scene. And then it changed into this like, hey, like, why don't the women put on man wigs so we can really be involved and show athleticism instead of just like being cutesy cutesy in our dresses? Because we can do a lot more than that.
Love that so
So
much.
they agreed on that, and now me and Sarah Grace have man wigs on, and I fight Ace, and she fights Steve, and yeah, it's everything.
I love that so much. That decision is like genius.
Yeah, I didn't get to do the full out Rumble until Broadway, so when we had that first rehearsal for the Rumble, I was so stoked.
Oh my
I
god,
was like,
and it
I'm
looks so
ready
good.
to fight.
It
I'm
looks
ready
so
to fight.
good on stage.
Oh my gosh. And the thing is, it's like, it's very easy to like, if you're not trained to like hurt somebody doing it or hurt yourself doing it, but we have fight call every day and we check in on where each other's at, like what percentage of 100 we're gonna do. Like we usually say show speed is 65. So we're like pretending to fight at 65%. Like we're not even going for it. So we have all that room in case we get red light fever. We're actually like really excited to fight on stage that we can tone it down. But yes, we have a very, very well ironed machine of the Rumble to make sure it's safe and doable 8 times a week.
I mean, and with like all those effects too,
Oh
like
my gosh, the lights, the first time we did it, we were bumping into each other. Like the lighting is so amazing and makes everything look 12 times better. Um, but yeah.
it's a masterpiece. Like there's a reason that the show won a bunch of Tonys.
Yeah.
And I mean going in, did you even think that like the Tony Awards were a possibility? Did you hope?
Well, the thing is, I really didn't even think about it. I was just kind of thinking like, okay, like I finally made it to Broadway. Now what can we do? Like maybe we'll be on Good Morning America. Like it was like that kind of thing in my mind. Maybe we'll be on this Macy's parade if we make
Hey.
it. Um, but then it started to get so much great feedback, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then we started getting nominated for like Drama Desk or like those kind of things, and I was like, oh,
This is good.
maybe this is gonna happen. Maybe we'll get a couple of Tony nominations. And I remember waking up that morning and watching the YouTube live stream, and it was just like every other category, and we were like, what? And we were like, oh my god, Danya, oh my god, Sky, oh my god, Josh, Brody, like all of these people, like this is really happening. Like I don't care if we win, like at least they're acknowledging like our hard work and dedication to this show, because the team we have is unreal. Lighting, sound, choreo, music, band, everything. everyone is truly the best of the best and is so open to collaborating. And yeah, it's like a hive mind. It's one of the greatest groups of people I've ever met in my life. And like even the cast, like too, just hive mind. We circle up before every show, and somebody gets drawn to share something inspirational or share something that's going on with their life or inspire each other. We do that every single day. I don't know of many shows that have all the cast come together and like hold hands every day, but we all like take a deep breath together every day. And that's like Danya's like number one priorities, like that we like start on the same page and that we all come together as a family and like tell everybody what we're going through and what we need to, if you need somebody to lean on or something that inspired you, a quote or an image. So we do that every day, and it's like a hive mind. So when we were nominated for Best Musical, I was like, I just want people to see how well we all work together and how much we all are so passionate about each individual facet of this thing, like down to where the light hits on the raindrop on stage right. Like, oh my gosh, Brian and everyone on the lighting team, just
It's
remarkable.
I was mind blown.
Yeah. And I remember Tony night, we were all getting ready to get on the bus to go to Lincoln Center to perform because we got ready at the Jacobs, and we hear everyone screaming and we all like come running together, and like we just hear Danya, Danya, Danya. We were like, Danya won, Danya won. So she's been like the captain of the ship forever and has created this wonderful environment for all of us to thrive, to be our best selves, and like will give us a push when we feel like we're not confident, like a little like bird coming out of the nest, just to like prove to us that we're fine. And so that happened. We're all crying. We're like, Tanya, Tanya. On Jordan Chin's Instagram, he has a video of us finding this out, and we're all like running to the third floor like crazies. And all of us finding out at different times, and you can see all of our reactions. And then after the performance, we were on our way back, and we were like, oh, I think we're going to be able to get to the theater by the time they are announcing the musical. Besides the people who are nominated, they had to stay at the Coke Theater, of course. So we all get into our like after party outfits as quick as we possibly can, and we run downstairs. And I put my phone down on the table where there's like Joe's Pizza and like Baja Blast and Mountain Dews. Like it was like you were partying in your parents' basement, like for a football party.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Like, oh my gosh, the best. I'll never forget this night. And Cynthia and Idina come out to announce it, and we're like, Adele Dazeem of all people. And we were so happy. And I see my phone start to light up, like probably like 20 seconds before they announce it. And I'm like, oh, people are probably just like saying like, congrats on the Tonys. There's probably bad service. Like I'm just getting whatever. It's a couple messages. And then I start getting a lot. And then it was like from people I hadn't heard from in 10 years. And I was like, I was like, did we win? And I look around, no one knows. We're all just waiting. And then they say the Outsiders, and we blew up. Like I've never experienced anything like that in my life. And it was just like, oh my gosh, like it was like a big exhale. Like they did see how hard we worked. They did see how much energy and effort we put into this monster of a show. And that's also on his Instagram. We're all just running around like crazy people and jumping up and down and crying and grabbing each other and just like holding on to each other for dear life. Like, we did it. We did it.
Yes.
And then I was just like, I couldn't believe it. And then like even to this day, I walk through Schubert Alley to get to the theater every day. And I'm like seeing Wicked and Hadestown, like all these shows. And it's like The Outsiders, like all of my friends. And it just says Best Musical. And I'm like,
it happened.
How did I get here? Like, I was just on my couch watching Rick Moranis in Little Shop of Horrors. How did I get here?
You're like having a crush on this.
Yeah, truly no clue. But yeah, I am so grateful and lucky and blessed and all of the above to be in this position. It's the best first case scenario I think anybody could ever have on Broadway. And I am not short of recognizing that. I cannot believe that. I definitely didn't think we would win a ton of things, not because I didn't believe in the show, just because I didn't believe in award ceremonies or whatnot, but it's very awesome to be recognized for how much we put into this.
I mean, even like I listened to the album before I saw the show, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, this better win everything." Like
Oh
I
my
could tell
gosh,
it's
yeah.
gonna be good, even
Yeah.
though I hadn't seen it on stage. I was like, "This music." Which,
Oh my gosh,
speaking of,
everything.
what is your favorite song and scene
Oh,
in The Outsiders?
favorite scene? I don't know what my favorite scene is. I really love the drive-in just because it's so kitschy and fun and a nod to musical, like
It,
cheesy musical theater within the seriousness and grittiness of The Outsiders. My favorite song is Death's at My Door. Very unpopular opinion, but the first time I heard Sky Lakota Lynch sing The Reason I'm Living Is You, I was done. I was just wailing.
I mean, I feel like in every song that he sings on the soundtrack, I'm just like,
It's all of them. They're just so nuts. Yeah, nuts.
I mean, I don't know how many times I've listened to the album, but like every time I get to the end of the album, I'm just like in full blown tears,
Yeah,
like
it's
on a walk, and I'm like, maybe people won't see me sobbing
I love it.
to the
Me every
show.
time during the show, I'm like trying to play games with people on stage so I don't cry. Truly, like
Oh
during
my
Little
God.
Brother, like me and Dan Barry have this bit where we like have a theme every time we enter behind the car and we like do a theme dance. So like we're not upset or crying. Um, kind of like keeping
Fine.
sane.
Lighten up.
Like we try to like bring joy to others that like really can't play games on stage that have to be like involved in the moment. We'll give them like a little touch or a little wink or like while we're doing like the funny things, like just to like know that we're here and we got their back and stuff.
The comedians on stage.
Oh yes, correct. During very dark moments.
The comedians of the dark
Only
moment
way.
on stage.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, I talked about like how this show is kind of like getting Newsies' attention. What do you
Yeah.
has about the show has the fans like coming back to see the show and like really in love with the show because they're waking up at like 4:30
Yeah.
for Rush.
It's all like it's that young teen age group. It's like they read this story and they're daydreaming of soda pop and then they see soda pop come to life and it's Jason Schmidt and it's like okay, yeah, it's the story coming to life before them with an incredibly kind, creative, interactive, and handsome cast.
Yes.
It's a very handsome cast, very talented cast. I do think a lot of the attention is definitely because of the male cast, for sure. I mean, it's like Newsies. It's very
Yeah.
similar to Newsies hype for sure. And they're all so young, and like this is like awakening them in some way, and
Theater.
that keeps them coming back. And then like their parents who loved the movie and the franchise in the 80s and the book in the 80s and even before then, like this is like exciting to watch their kids feel the same way as they did when they were younger. So I'm sure that's encouraged through their families. And then the online presence of it all, of TikToks and fan pages and fan fiction and stuff. It's that teen age. We all were there. We all read Newsies fan fiction. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know what I mean? So yeah, it's definitely the teens that keep the hype going. Like the stage door is nuts every day.
Oh my
It's
God. It
I
was.
can barely get out of there. I can
You're like,
barely get
how
out
am
of
I
there.
getting home?
Yeah, and the amount of sharks that have gone at the stage door are crazy. I
Oh
said I
my,
like sharks once to the chat, and I've gotten so many, and then
you
I've
have,
like ran with it. I love sharks.
oh my God, you have a
I
collection.
have a collection. I
Oh,
have one here. I need to bring it to the theater.
yeah, I feel like I'm like kind of like in the middle of like the groups of people, like
Yeah,
there's groups of people because I'm 31
yeah,
is and I read the book in school. So
yeah,
I'm like kind of somewhere in the middle of the parents and the teenagers
yeah.
who love the project.
Who? Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's yeah. I feel like yeah, my mom and my aunt were so obsessed with Matt Dillon. And they were like, can you let me know if he comes to see the show? And he came to see the show, and he's one of the nicest people. He
Oh
just
my,
stayed and talked to us for like an hour.
oh my
So kind,
God.
so polite.
Oh,
Great man. One of the best people I've ever met, honestly, from a show.
and a bunch of people involved with it, like
Oh,
that
yeah.
have come and seen the show, and I've heard
Oh,
like
yeah. Diane Lane, so nice. Who played
did she
Cherry?
come?
Yes.
Oh
Cherry. Emma and her got a picture together. I was like backstage when they did it. She's so sweet.
oh my God, I was talking with her about like the interviews she did.
Yeah.
She was like, I want to go see the show. Oh, be
Yeah.
so I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. She came.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Love that.
Yeah.
So I I want to ask, when you go, you haven't made your Cherry debut yet, right?
Not yet. I did do my put-in
Okay.
very recently.
So I want to ask, how do you think you bring yourself to Cherry based on that put in?
From the put-in, Well, I just know that I'm very much a dancer first, not that I can't do singing or acting. So I think it's really nice to propel myself into the part because in the opening, Cherry doesn't do much. But drive-in, she comes out straight out the gate and it's very dancey, like kitschy musical theater, and that's my favorite scene. And the song is very comfortable in my range. So I think just like kind of being like dancer melody with like the singing added on top, like a cherry on top, if you will. Yeah, and just kind of like taking the stage like I would if I were coming out for a dance competition and doing a musical theater solo. That makes sense. Um, and just kind of like being really playful. Not that any other cherry isn't, but that's the I bring my like childlike playful self and like think about myself when I was in high school and how I like kind of sort of wanted to break the mold with my friend group and wanted to be friends with everybody no matter what, and just kind of like bringing that into the storytelling. Yeah.
Gosh. Yes.
Yeah.
And like acting, like you're acting through dance, which like brings the next extra layer because like that dance
Yeah.
background really
Uh-huh.
helps people see the
Yeah.
act
Like
that
body language and
yes.
everything. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It
Totally.
adds so much, honestly.
Mhm.
So I want to ask, to kind of like wrap up, how do you work on self-confidence in this industry? Because
Ooh.
it like we've touched on this and it is so tough. I feel like it like self-doubt.
It's very tough and it's way easier for some than others. And I definitely struggle with it every day. I struggle with anxiety. I struggle with imposter syndrome on the daily. There'll be days where I feel like I'm untouchable and feel so confident in myself and feel like no one can touch me. And then the next day I'm so low and I'm like, how did I get here? Why am I here? I tricked somebody into being here. Like that kind of self talk. I think it's really important to try to set a healthy routine where you aren't exposed to things that make you feel less self-confident. So for instance, if you're having a bad social media day and don't really want to look at others and comparing yourself with other success, that my biggest advice is don't compare yourself to others. It robs yourself of your own personal joy and your own personal journey. You have your own timeline. It's the only way that you should live your life. You shouldn't be like, okay, this girl was on Broadway when she was 12. I'm 30. Why have I not gotten my first principal credit by now? It's not even the same line, like completely different things. And just stay in your own lane. Your own timeline is what's right for you. Trusting that process and surrounding yourself with people who support you and can help you realize how special you are to not just a process, but just to be a friend or yeah, just surrounding yourself with really supportive, a supportive friend group. And also with self-confidence comes therapy. Definitely talk to your therapist about it because that will help you find the tools you need specifically for your situation. And that is number one for me.
Oh yes. Oh yes. And I'm glad you mentioned that because like
Yeah.
I feel like taking care of your mental health is so
It's
important.
so important because especially if you're doing a show that's so dark and low and sad as this one, it can really get in your head and it can really mess with your mental. And you really just have to find a routine where you can phase out of it and relax and like kind of like wash off your character.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and like finding that routine is super helpful for self confidence. Like turning off your phone before bed, like not looking at the comment sections on your videos, like those kind of things. You never know what somebody's gonna say.
Hey, but I'm sure I've read most comments on y'all's pages, and the fans of the show
They're
love
so
the entire
supportive. They're
cast.
so supportive. They're a great group.
I know y'all have gotten like so much fan art and stuff, which
Yeah, we have a little fan art wall in our dressing room. I love it.
oh my God, that's so awesome to have. Like what an accomplishment to
Yeah,
like look at fan art of yourself.
I
So
love it.
I would ask, where can people follow you on social media to keep up with what you're doing?
Oh, yeah. So on Instagram, I am at Melody Rose, just first and last name. And then on TikTok, I'm at XO Melody Rose.
Awesome. And you do like TikTok lives and stuff, which
Well,
is
we do TikTok lives every Saturday at 7:15 and 8:15. I usually tell them if it's going to be on my TikTok or the Outsiders TikTok. This week, the week of August 15th, I will be going live on Sunday because I have a wedding to go to. But
Ooh.
instead, but yeah, every Saturday we go live on TikTok.
Oh my goodness. Hey,
Backstage. So
that
Saturday.
hey, people love that. Like it's so smart of you to do, like to connect with
Yeah, it's really fun to interact with them and just kind of give them, and especially the people who can't afford it or kids who live across the world, like who
yeah.
can't come see the show, like in a split second, can see like backstage and how it works as a Broadway performer and how you get ready and who you work with and how you work as a team and ask silly questions of character lore and stuff and just feel like they're closer to the cast.
Oh my God, that's so cool of you. And I'm gonna tune
Yeah.
in for sure.
Love it.
I'm gonna tune in and like read all the comments and that's
Oh my gosh, I can't wait.
so do you have anything else that you'd want to promote, or you just want to like come say to come see the Outsiders on Broadway?
Oh my gosh, I would love to say, come see the show. Oh my goodness. And we are going on tour, not our cast. We don't know who, but our show will be going on tour in fall of 2025.
Ooh.
So keep an eye out for a city near you. If you can't come to New York to see the show, we will have I'm sure, a very stacked, wonderful cast be on tour sharing our story.
Oh yes. Oh yes. And definitely go see it in a city near you. Like
Oh my gosh, yeah,
the show.
definitely.
Like it's so good. I want to see it a billion more times.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me to talk today. I had so much fun.
Thank
And
you so much for having me.
of course.
Appreciate
And
it.
thanks for watching this episode of Backstage with Becca B. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Becca B Talks TV. Or for more exclusive content from this interview and more, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Backstage with Becca B. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video. Or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give me a 5-star rating. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.